Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to iGCSE Success. Wow, what a strange, I think I said this in my previous video, what a strange half term it's been. However, I hope you are all rested, no matter where you are in the world, and that I would imagine you are ready for some more home learning. I know in Thailand, or the school that I teach at in Thailand, we will be continuing home learning for a little bit longer. I'm not quite sure how long, but certainly for the next couple of weeks. However, I just wanted to jump on here and do a quick video. I had a question in the comments about looking at the 2020 Specimen paper. I'm going to look at the writer's effect question, and I don't know if hopefully you can see the paper. So if you haven't done this paper, and I'm pretty sure if you were due to sit your exams in May or June, then your teachers at some point probably would have used this paper perhaps as a mock, or at least use this paper to enable them to create other material for you, because there is only one specimen paper. If you haven't done this and you want to get ahead of the game, or you want to start looking at what is required for paper 1, it is available on the Cambridge website. There are quite a few changes which I've mentioned in a previous video, but it's still 2 hours long. You know, there's quite a lot to. Do I have the question paper here? Yes, there's quite a lot to get through in 2 hours. You've got all of these sort of newer questions. Lots of new questions, actually. The summary question remains the same. It's now 120 words. Question 2. You know, this is difficult. I might do a video on the sort of newer questions. But anyway, the one that we're going to focus on today is the writer's effect question, which is now worth 15 marks. We're going to be looking at paragraph 9 and 12. So if you haven't looked at this paper, I would advise you to look at the inserts, which again, all of this material can be found on the Cambridge website. You don't need a login or anything. And the text that you will need to read is text C, called The Gift. And it's a lovely little story of a girl called Natalie stumbling across a lost elephant. Now, the question directs you to paragraph 9 first, and then paragraph 12, and not much has changed in terms of what is expected. I mean, the wording has changed. I'll just read it out. Explain how the writer uses language to convey meaning and to create effect in these paragraphs. Choose 3 examples from each. So you're going to have 6 in total. Imagery is the primary focus, but you can look at sentence structure, word level stuff, so adjective, verbs, as I've said, imagery, so personification, metaphor, similes, etc. So I've typed up a little bit of a model. So obviously this video won't be that useful unless you've read the paper, and unless you are going to, and I recommend you do attempt this paper. It doesn't matter what year you're in, year 10, year 11. It certainly will benefit you. So once you've read the paper, this kind of model, I guess, will make sense. So I'll just read paragraph 9. This is where Natalie, at first she doesn't realise it's an elephant. Okay, so it's described in very vague terms, if you like. And the paragraph 9 reads, "At first I thought it was a tram, but its shape was too organic, too lumpy. And it was going too slowly for that, making almost no noise. It was swaying up the street with an even momentum. Can't speak today. In a rolling motion that was drawing it away from us like a tide. And every time it rocked forward, something about it made a soft, dragging sound on the rails. As we watched, the thing sucked in air and then let out a deep groan. Now, I've already highlighted the evidence that I'm going to explore. I mean, there's other things that you could explore as well. You've got those dynamic verbs, swaying, the repetition, the fact that it makes no noise. But essentially, what you need to get from that is that we're dealing with an elephant that is very much lost. It's out of place with the surroundings that it's in. It's in, I guess, unfamiliar territory. Arguably, its health isn't the best. So let's see how we put those ideas into a paragraph which analyzes effectively. And again, if you want to check out my previous videos, I've done quite a few videos on the writer's effect question following my 5-step model. So we always start with the overall effect of what the writer is trying to achieve. And it's really important you get that right, because everything else that follows will essentially link to that overall effect. So, the overall effect of the language creates an image of the elephant's continuous movements as it tries to navigate its way through unfamiliar surroundings. So that straight away shows the examiner that you know what the writer is trying to achieve. The writer begins by describing the elephant as being too organic and too lumpy. So we use a short quotation. The writer's image here is particularly striking as it creates a sense of the elephant being completely lost and out of place in the city. I just want to draw your attention to this phrase here, particularly striking. You'll see these kind of phrases peppered throughout. Examiners like to see an evaluative voice. So think about suitable adjectives that you could use to show that you are evaluating the writer's ideas as well as analysing. So when you say things like this is effective, this is powerful, this is striking, emotive, poignant, you are in essence evaluating the writer's images. So it's really important if you want to get top marks. Then we use the zoom in techniques. So the writer's use of the adjective lumpy is also effective as it contrasts with the architecture of the city, strengthening the idea that it belongs in a more natural environment. Then we go on to analyse our second quote. The writer then goes on to describe the rolling motion of the elephant being drawn away like a tide. I love that image, I really do. The writer's use of imagery here is particularly powerful as it likens the elephant's movements to the power of nature. It evokes images of the continuous movements of the ocean and creates a sense of the elephant desperately wanting to escape back to the natural world. So really insightful analysis. Lastly, the writer goes on to describe the elephant sucking in air and then letting out a deep groan. So that's my third image. The writer's poignant image here makes it clear to the reader that we are dealing with a living species, unbeknownst to Natalie at this point, of course, that is not only out of its natural habitat, but also in distress and suffering. The fact that it's almost struggling to breathe perhaps suggests that its health is quickly deteriorating. Okay, so there's a paragraph that analyses three powerful images really well. It evaluates them, it's well organised, well structured. It uses textual evidence really effectively. Now, let's look at paragraph 12, and that reads, its ears were folded back against the domed, balded head with big-lidded eyes. The arched roll of the spine fell away into the hips. Dry folds of skin shook around the shoulders and knees as it shifted its weight. It seemed to take up the whole street. it dragged its curled trunk like a fist along the ground. Now, hopefully you get from that, we are dealing with an elephant that is suffering, that it, as I mentioned in my previous paragraph, it's out of its natural environment. Its health isn't the best. We feel sorry for this elephant, and all of my ideas that I'm going to analyse, they are going to link to that idea. So let's have a look at the paragraph. The overall effect of the language creates an image of the elephant suffering, almost as if it's close to giving up. The writer begins by describing the elephant's ears being folded back. The writer's use of imagery here is particularly piteous, as it's clear that the elephant is feeling anxious or afraid. It's almost as if it's slowly giving up the will to fight for survival. Notice how I use almost a lot. My job is to make suggestions. I'm not making definite assertions. This seems to suggest it's almost as if it almost creates a sense of, okay? And these kind of phrases I would expect to see in a response, peppered, I guess, throughout. The writer then goes on to describe the elephant's dry folds of skin shaking around its shoulders. The writer's effective use of imagery here creates a palpable image of the elephant's suffering. It's clearly an aged elephant that no longer has the strength it once had. The condition of its skin reflects the hardships it has perhaps had to endure. Lastly, the writer goes on to describe the elephant dragging its curled trunk like a fist. The writer's use of the dynamic verb, so this time, although it is imagery, I'm focusing on a particularly powerful word, and that is the verb dragged. So the writer's use of the dynamic verb evokes images of the elephant having lost its power and strength. It almost feels like the elephant is reluctant to move due to the uncertainty it feels over its future. I mean, guys, there's so much we could say about these two paragraphs. What an amazing story in terms of allowing you to unpick the language and make a variety of interesting and thoughtful inferences. By gosh, 12 minutes, 30 odd seconds. I did say to myself this was going to be a short video, but I hope this helps. I hope it allows you to see how examiners want you to structure a response when dealing with the writer's effect question. As always, if you have any questions, please do leave them below, and good luck to all of the students starting school again on Monday. Bye.